Awesome. So glad to see everyone here. It's really cool. Um, so I'm doing the eighth of the eightfold path today because I had a little different idea for next week that ties in with the eightfold path. But to preface this, I remember a retreat a long time ago, and I've brought this up frequently, but it's an experience I still go back to. And I've actually had moments where this has returned, but that was a time that lasted for a very long period of time where I'd actually stopped thinking. And that was that was beyond interesting. I said, that's pretty interesting. No, it was beyond interesting. It really did feel like liberation. Um, and I wasn't clinging to it either. And I believe I carried that to bed with me when I went to sleep. But when I woke up, it was all squirrely out here again, you know. Squirrels in the attic. But it made me I was always suspicious that there were things that could be understood that can only be experienced and cannot be understood in word or concepts. I was getting really suspicious of that and discovered that was the case. There's no words for what I experienced. I can't tell. I mean, if I tell you, it just sounds like if I told it to someone who's not had that experience, it would sound just very abstract, right? It's a state that has to be reached. So I actually wrote some stuff down. The understanding of suffering and liberation from suffering cannot be understood solely by cognition.
Would you repeat that, John?
Oh, yeah. The understanding of suffering and liberation from suffering cannot be understood solely by cognition. I can't think myself into liberation. I can't think myself to the truth. And boy, I love thinking. It's a hobby. Um, I love philosophy and things like that. And I know that they only go so far. So I wrote it must be experienced. Nor can the understanding of suffering and liberation from suffering be explained solely in words and concepts. If I can write it down, I can write down some of it, but I can't write down what the ultimate experience of that is. Words and concepts. I can't draw a diagram. I can't write a picture. It's awesome that when the Buddha came and talked to everybody, right away talked about practices. Do this, do this, do this. Didn't say what that state was like, just said how you get to that state. In this way, the Buddha is the finger pointing at the moon. So everything the Buddha shared for us is just pointing. But it's not the moon itself. As much as I love and learn from Buddhism, it's still very conceptual. The skills that are taught there point to that place that goes beyond language and thinking and concepts and words. There's a question that a lot of people get to do in Zen. They always ask, who thinks? Who feels? Who sees? Who hears? I say who meditates. So these are questions I'd always asked myself following. And again, it's not, I can't understand it by concepts. I need to understand it by experience. But I know my body will continue, my blood will continue to flow, my heart will continue to beat, my lungs will continue to breathe, my stomach will continue to digest. I have millions of white blood cells in here that will continue to fight infection. And I'm very grateful that I don't have to keep track of all that. I sometimes have a hard time getting the work on time. So I've heard this many times and I've said it. I am not the body. Yet to say I am not the body is not the whole truth. I am not the body, but that's not the whole truth. I love Juliaisms because it's a framework to get the idea that things can both be true and not wholly true at the same time. I think that's a fundamental reality, and it's important for me to note that. So I think of the same thing of my mind. Emotions and moods will continue to happen. Sometimes I need, I've used medicine to help with some of these for depression and anxiety, mainly anxiety. And it will continue to think without any help from me. As a fact, I wake up in the morning and sometimes there's already thoughts going in my brain. I didn't have a whole lot to do with. And I keep wondering if they keep going when I'm asleep and I'm just not aware of them. And it would not surprise me if that was the case. And so I know I'm not the mind. But to say I am not the mind is not the whole truth. I am the mind. I am not the mind, but to say I am not the mind is not the whole truth. And that's as close to words as I can get. I just wish everyone, just for a while, and I wish I could have it more. I wish I could engender it more within me, but have that experience of just being unhooked from concepts and words and thoughts. See what that's like. And that's the Eightfold Path, and right concentration brings us to that place. I always tell myself if I am not careful, or I don't want to use the word careful, if I am not skillful, my life can become a complicated construction of rumors. Things I've heard to be true. A complicated construction of rumors. And a very fragile construction of rumors. Anything's pulled out, it comes falling apart. One of the most important things I can do in earnestly seeking my liberation is to understand that my mind is a complicated construction of rumors. I'm going to take time. I'd like for us to breathe. I want to do a few readings of a text that's not Buddhist, yet incredibly Buddhist. It's one of my favorite texts that I go to a lot. It's the Tao Te Ching, and I just want to read the first chapter a few times. So if everyone can just be comfortable. So let's take a few breaths to start, and I will read this while we meditate. take a deep breath in. Exhale. As you breathe in, be alert. As you exhale, relax. Take this moment just right now to be aware of where your hands are at. Experience in totality the senses of your hands. Now come back to the breath. Okay, I'll do a reading. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless is the beginning of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of 10,000 things. Ever desireless, one can see the mystery. Ever desiring, one can see the manifestations. These two spring from the same source but differ in name. This appears as darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gate to all mystery. Continue following your breath. Sit with the words, but realize it is more than the words. The Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, Chapter 1. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless is the beginning of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of 10,000 things. Ever desireless, one can see the mystery. Ever desiring, one can see the manifestations. These two spring from the same source but differ in name. This appears as darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gate to all mystery. Return to your breath. Be alert on the in-breath. Relax on the out-breath. Know in concentration, the breath can be your anchor. Keeping you still in rough waters. Let's take some breaths before I do the final reading. Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, Chapter 1. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless is the beginning of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of 10,000 things. Ever desireless, one can see the mystery. Ever desiring, one can see the manifestations. These two spring from the same source but differ in name. This appears as darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gate to all mystery. Take a few minutes to follow your breath and be with what we just read 3 times. It's amazing. Okay. Dedication of merit. May we be happy and peaceful. May we be healthy and strong. May we be safe and protected. May we live with ease. Namaste.